So we've been at a lot of different events with Volkswagen lately. They celebrate 50 years since the Golf came out, saw the first day of light, but we are at a very, very special place. This place showcases all the cars throughout the history. It's both concept cars, which they've developed further technologies on, the first GTI, the first R version, and to this very day, the latest one. So you can see a lot here, and you can really see how much effort they put into all of these cars. Cars that were developed for the Gran Turismo PlayStation game, and rally cars, and Pikes Peak cars, everything in here. So you understand the community of the Golf. It is a big community. There is so much to absorb in here, and it's really, really interesting. And we will also be driving the first generation Golf, the second generation Golf, the GTIs, and there is some more generations. So let's see how much we got time to do. But just looking around in here, well, it is a bit of a museum. You can really see the enthusiasm and what it's all about. And it attracts both younger and older groups, as we know, because they deliver so much driving pleasure. And the latest ones, we know how much performance and how much they deliver when you drive it on track. So yeah, let's just have a look around.
Golf GTI history. It's a phenomenon. It boasts the largest fan base of any compact sports car in the world. It's considered the original in its class. The ultimate icon, the Golf GTI, with over 2.4 million units produced to date. Between the first and the 8th GTI, 6 more generations have made their mark. The second generation Golf GTI is presented as a 16-valve model. And now, time to try out some of the earlier GTI versions. We start with the second generation Golf GTI.
It's rather agile, and it's nice with this long gear shifts. You get this little golf ball on the top of the gear stick. Just gives you perfect grip. Very thin, you know, it's dressed in this little skirt, leather skirt here, but quick to put in the next gear. Very easy to maneuver. Soft in the clutch, and off you go in a rather nippy way. Remember riding in these cars when I was young, not the GTI models, the normal ones, and it just takes you back. Once again, driving these old cars, it's a road down memory lane, and there's something about it. This one and these cars, all these generations that they have on the museum here and on the exhibition, well, they are in mint condition, of course, and they work in mint condition. So just like when they were almost brand new back in the days. And it is a very nice feeling getting back and now getting behind the wheel, which, well, you weren't behind the wheel when you were young. You were just a passenger in these times. And you know, by being interested in cars, you looked around and you soaked up how it looked. The buttons, the adjustments, the cassette players, and steering wheel, and also the speedometer and rev counter. And the needles, how they looked rather thick with that pointy, sharp, almost like an arrow type of needle that moved about this nice cluster with big fat digits. These are just good looking cars. They are so classic that they are just as known as like a 911. People know what kind of cars these are all the way to this date. And it's perfect height for your bent arm if you want to put that out. And through the years, it just created a big community of sport enthusiasts that got into that community, that GTI community, the Golf community. And it became some sort of lifestyle. These were fun cars. They gave you so much driving pleasure. A little wobbly, it's not that direct in the steering feel. The chassis is rather soft. The seats are really soft. And now let's push it a little. Not bad. Rather good performance. It's an enjoyable little car. Now we get out on some more free roads out here. And the brakes, well, they're there. They're not of a modern standard. And pushing it through the bend. You can feel the feedback through the steering wheel. It's very natural. And you get that little nice tone from the engine, and it revs just perfectly. It was a lively engine, so this was a lot of fun back in the days when it was released. And you can work some with the momentum. You can short shift and you still got some power. So taking this on the country roads, well, that was a real pleasure back in the days. And of course, it still is. It is a little wobbly, the steering, it moves about. But after a while, when you got it and you know that little travel of where to steer, then it reacts rather well. 110, 120, you brake. Then you get in on the straight line again, and yeah, there's power enough. Power enough to have some fun. But it's very revvy. It's very alive, that little engine. And it's just there. And it's really good that you can be in fourth gear and just push it around 80 to 100 there with some torque in the bottom. And you get that tendency of a little understeer, but the body roll of it isn't that bad. It's there, of course, but not that bad. Stepped into Generation 1. So the Generation 1, well, what is it? About 110 horsepower or something in this one. Not much, but a very small, light car. I don't even think that this is 1,000 kilos on this one. Still, you get that golf ball on the gear shifts. Yeah, and a very thin steering wheel, very, very thin. This is tactile, and yep, you need to be on the brakes a little earlier here. And it's just, the steering isn't that aligned here. Let's just push it and see how it feels. This is also rather alive. You can hear that engine. It is on its toes. So remember back in the days when these were launched, well, they were great fun. This is really back to basics. You can feel that it's very, very light. And I mean, wow. It feels a little scary because the brakes, well, they don't really bite. But still, yep, and you only got, oh, you got 5 gears, but you need to push that 5th gear in. It all comes down to that it is light. But once again, the seats, they're about the same. The comfort in the seats is just great. Stretch it out, so. Oh, it's quick, 140. I mean, this is a rather rapid car. This is where the cars came alive back in the days. And this is how they should be driven. Well, even to this day, drove it just as hard back in the days. So why not drive it as hard now? We need to be careful because these are, collector's objects. But still, it's fun. This is a very special feeling. 3rd gear. And it's just there, very pointy, very easy to put in to the next bend, the next corner. This is a lot of fun. Yeah, feels like the dashboard, well, it's a little loose. But the road here is a bit patchy, it's a bit uneven. But that's what the thing is about. I think that new cars, well, they feel a bit more firm, a bit more stiff. The suspension in this one, well, it's not as good in the corners as modern cars, of course, but the comfort, it's just there. But you needed to plan a bit more when driving back in the days, pushing the brakes a bit earlier, knowing where the steering input is, because there is some sort of travel in the steering inputs. And that planning, well, that made great drivers. Nowadays, well, everything is so immediate. And is that fun? Well, that's, of course that's fun. You always want power immediately, you want the steering input immediately, you want the brake to be there immediately. But taking you back to these early days, well, that made some great drivers. very simple in here, driver focused. The steering wheel is thin and you got these 4 buttons for the horn. And you got that light horn on it, so it sounds just cute. Classic cars, sports cars, and all type of classic cars, we all know that the prices of them are skyrocketing. In this modern era where all cars are just spitted out from every manufacturer, electric cars and all of that, many people want to turn the clock back, be sitting in one of these, looking at them, smelling them, touching them, and driving them. And that comes at a cost, because we don't know when all of these fossil engines will be dead. Now we're in a bit more modern version. This is the Generation 5, 230 horsepower, and you got the DSG gearbox, the direct shift gearbox. So they become sharper at each generation, of course, but this would be rather interesting. Whoa, this gearbox, does it live its own life? We have it in sport. Let's hope it's fully manual, because that's what I want. Yeah, it isn't as sophisticated, the gearbox, as it is nowadays in the MK8 and these newer versions. A sporty hot hatchback like this, yellow, that is something that fits these type of cars. I like it. It becomes a little more alive, poppy in some way. The quality feels just great. The seats, they are great. And this is a little special because it's Pirelli branded here. And when you set off, it is a little jumpy, this gearbox. The steering is, of course, immediately so much more direct compared to the older ones that we drove. Of course it is. It differs many years and refinement between these models. That's a good bark to the sound there. I love that one. Really nice. Deeper tone. Very focused here with the clusters, a bit deeper now, a bit finer tune on the typing. It's just something stepping back, you know, not that many years, but just a couple, and just sensing what type of car this was when that was launched. Steering wheel is just great, very sporty. You got the yellow stitching, really matches the exterior color, and the buttons on the steering wheel, they just got their resistance, and you need to be firm while pushing them. Get onto this patchy road here again, which we were driving on with the Gen 1 and the Gen 2. They were a bit more soft. These seats, they are a bit harder. The chassis is a bit harder in this one. Maybe the isolation, of course, is better. It's more quiet like that, but it shivers a bit here, and you can feel it through the chassis a bit more than you did in the earlier generations. It's often like that with new chassis. Of course, they're more sophisticated, more advanced in so many ways, but the seating in the old ones, that softer spring rate surely did its job for the comfort. And here we go. The brakes, they are good. Well, a lot more modern, of course, and the steering is very direct. The power is linear. So, not that much torque steer because it doesn't spin out that much. It is rapid, and when on the move, when driving actively, this DSG gearbox, it works a lot better. You don't want to drive too slow with it. I think it's very planted. You don't feel that much body roll in it, and it's just a very linear and progressive type of feeling when you get into the more sporty driving mode. Well, I like it. The paddle shifters are a bit too short, very small. It's almost like they're hidden behind the spokes here. It's a practical car, it's a rather comfortable car, and it is at the same time a very predictable sports car that offers a lot. Now we're in the cabriolet version, Generation 6. So it's a bit more updated, and now you can adjust the chassis as well. So a bit more of a DCC, dynamic chassis control. And you sit rather low in this car. You can get the steering wheel up a bit, and the seats are nice. You know, you got this Scottish textile look, and they're just so spacious. And this is nice. I just love cabriolets, as I've been talking about before. They are just great. So it's a little up on power, and you get all the wind in here. Traction is good in this car. Really, really good. And you know, it picks up speed rather well. At the same time that it's open, you get all these senses. It's not that windy. It's like this is very good for that turbulence of the wind. But the gearbox, well, it still does its own job, so you're not in full control of it. It's a bit more subtle, and I think that the ride is a bit more soft, even though we drive in the sport mode right now. Okay, let's floor it a little. It's just soft, and that gearbox is soft as well. So it's, you know, it's quick, more of a cruiser, but at the same time the power is enough, and you get that sharp driving experience. And you know, I love convertibles, and this one, it's just great. In comparison with the Generation 5, this direct shift gearbox, it is a bit more sophisticated, it is a bit more updated, it is a little quicker and a bit more smooth. But this is just lovely. It's like driving a motorcycle when you get all this wind. It's just great. You can put it in wherever you want. There's no travel like in the old ones. The steering here, it is on point. So this is just great. And it's just a couple of years that we're turning back the clock now. But still, you get this much joy. So this is what Golf stands for. Even though the Golf R versions are a bit more hardcore, this is just great enough. And you can feel that body control. It's just great. And you got the momentum, so you can short shift a little in some longer bends and cool it down, because you don't want to floor it out, so you get some tendency of that understeer. Modulate the power, and it just becomes a great little racer. It's more like it lives a little more on some middle torque there instead of just revving it out. So get your momentum, get your speed going, know your lines, and it will reward you. But if you compare it to modern gearboxes, well, it isn't as sharp, it isn't as direct. You can feel that. They are more like transcendent. They know when you are about to change, and they are there, ready for it. This one, well, it still lives its own little life. And I like how it looks. It looks fun, a little more on the ugly side and to my taste, but it's still a GTI. And when it comes in a Cabrio version like this, I think it's just a treat. And here we got the lineup of old generations. Generation 1, which we drove, which was really, really fun. And then of course this one felt a little bit more modern, the Generation 2. Looks a little, you know, like that Lancia Delta Integrale in the front. Looks good. This one became a bit more common as Golf, but still the GTI model, a little more smooth. And then it became a bit more modern. Even so, you know, facelifted, looked a bit better in the front. This one, we tested that one, the Generation 5, and here's the Generation 6. We drove the Cabriolet version 7, and yeah, of course, 8. And these ones are the newer ones. The Golf R, this is the MK 8.5. I'm picking out a couple of cars that I find, you know, a little more thrilling and exciting, and this is one. This is an historic one from 1987, Golf 2. It's called the Pikes Peak. So it's got 2 engines. They just lifted off the front and the back part of the car so we could see those two engines. And those two engines, they individually produced 326 horsepower, so two 4-cylinder engines, turbocharged at 1.8 liter each. And yeah, I mean, look at it. It is hardcore. You can see the fans back here letting out all that hot air. It's just a cool thing to see. I mean, imagine this on full throttle up that Pikes Peak hill. Clean and just hardcore. Driven by Jochi Kleint. But it didn't really make it all the way through, unfortunately. It stopped not far off from the finish line. And here's a model that caught my attention a little extra. You can see that it is a little extra, but with style and elegance. And the only thing that really, whispers a little of performance are the rims. And these are not any rims. These sat on the Lamborghini LP 560. So it's Lamborghini rims. And look at the color and the interior. You got this cognac looking interior, Alcantara in the roof, very nice stitching on the dashboard and all around. And then it's like, what is this? Is this something special? And it is. Even though you look at it from the back, look at this. Very stylish, very discreet. Only 2 tailpipes, but the engine isn't that discreet. What they put into this one was that 3.2 liter 6-cylinder engine, and it was boosted up to 450 horsepower. They even said that when they tried it out in the dyno, well, it showed even more power. So this is a quick car. Top speed 300 kilometers an hour. And this is the only one that they created. So it didn't get into production, but here we are with it. And it's just a special treat. You got a Bilstein coilover, larger brake system, and the exhaust system is stainless steel, even though it doesn't look like a very sporty exhaust system. So this one is a bit of a sleeper with elegance, and I love it. Love the color, and it just makes you want to have one of these. Love that sleeper character. During the years in the legendary car meeting place called Wörthersee, there was these type of cars, these custom-made cars, home-built, but they started to build them at the factory as well. Different types of customizations, and that meeting is a big one, popular one, and that's where this great community gathers to show off what they've been doing. So many examples of, if you're into this aftermarket and homemade custom type of cars, well, then this is rather interesting. But that leads me on to this one, which was launched 2014 as the PlayStation game Gran Turismo 6 was launched. And this is the Golf 7, the GTI Roadster. And they started it up. A good looking car. I mean, look at it. You can see it's a concept car. It is a project car. Here's the logo of the Gran Turismo. But look at these scissor doors and the interior. Wouldn't you love to get into one of these and take it for a ride? I just think it looks super beautiful. It is a bit outlandish in its looks, but at the same time, does it with some grace. It's compact, it's super low, 503 horsepower from that 6-cylinder turbocharged 3-liter engine. And it sounds just great. 7-speed direct shift gearbox, all-wheel drive, 4Motion, 0 to 100 in 3.6 seconds. And it only weighs 1,420 kilos, so it's a lightweight supercar. And the top speed is 309 kilometers an hour. So yeah, this one is a beauty. It's a shame it didn't got into production, because imagine this on the road. It looks magnificent. And here is the Design Vision GTI, also a unique study. Looks cool. Feels like a stretched hot hatchback, low stance. Yeah. Well, you judge yourself. I think it looks okay. It looks fun. But this one,